Welcome. NOAA released its January of 2021 climate report last week, and this video is a summary of that report. January of 2021 had a number of interesting things happening during the month. The Arctic sea ice level was the 6th lowest on record, that's 6% below average. The Antarctic sea ice was 13th lowest and 7% below average. We still have La Nina conditions in the eastern Pacific. Africa had its warmest January on record. North America, second warmest as a whole. The US by itself was the 9th warmest, and South America had its 14th warmest. Europe had much above average precipitation, both as rain and snow. And there was a very active tropical cyclone month in that it had 10 named storms, which is one above the previous record. As far as temperatures were concerned, January of 2020 was the 7th warmest January on record, combining both land and ocean temperatures. The land by itself was the 8th warmest, with a deviation from the average of 1.4 degrees centigrade. Ocean was the 8th warmest, with a deviation of nearly 0.6 degrees centigrade. The Northern Hemisphere was the 5th warmest at 1.13 degrees centigrade above average, and the Southern Hemisphere was 21st warmest at 0.46 degrees centigrade above the 20th century average. This is a map showing the departure from average for January of 2021. There's this very large area of cold air over Siberia in northern Russia. And that is a remarkable thing because that's been the area that's been unusually warm for the last few months. To contrast to that, we have a large area of warm air over Alaska, Canada, and Greenland. We have this big area of cold water off the southwest coast of South America, and that shows the presence of La Nina. This map shows the potential for each pixel to have been setting a record or not. Interestingly enough, the large cold area in Siberia is not actually a record low. It's much cooler than average, but nonetheless not a record low. That would be a dark blue. We have one dark blue pixel here, which is just off the southwest coast of South America. But to contrast that, we have 86 dark red pixels, which indicate record highs. This is a new incarnation of my matrix that I've been having for the last few years. You'll notice that I've dropped the 2015 and previous years into a list on the right here, which ranks them according to how cold they were. You'll find that 9 of the last 11 years have been the warmest on record, which is quite significant. However, we have 2016 to 2021 broken down by month, and you can see the January of 2021 being ranked as number 7, as I said before. This means it's starting off to be very similar to 2018, which ended up being about the 6th warmest year on record, and could well mean that 2021 will not be in the top 5 for the coming year. But we'll have to see how things develop later in the year. If El Nino reestablishes itself by the end of the year, that would increase the rank of 2021. Now let's take a look at the upper atmosphere for January 2021. We'll start with the lower troposphere here, which is to an altitude of about 4 kilometers or so. And that was the 13th warmest on record, with a deviation from the long-term mean of 0.26 degrees centigrade. Next layer up is the mid-troposphere, and that goes up to about 7 kilometers. The mid-troposphere was the 17th warmest January on record, with a deviation from the average of 0.14 degrees centigrade. Lastly, we'll take a look at the stratosphere, which is the layer that is cooling. This is a unique signature of the effect of greenhouse gases. It was the second coolest stratosphere ever measured for January, with a deviation from the average of minus 0.62 degrees centigrade. Next, let's take a look at the global precipitation model for January of 2021. You can see across most of Europe and parts of Asia, there was exceedingly high levels of rainfall, both as rain and also as snow. Meanwhile, the United States seemed to have a below normal rainfall map. Also, some areas of China and the Middle East are much lower than average rainfall. Australia looks as though some parts in the south have got a lot of rainfall, but through the middle of the country, again, it's been relatively dry. Next, we'll take a look at the Arctic sea ice, and it was below average again in January of 2021. It was the 6th lowest extent of ice on record, and it was the 23rd consecutive January below average. Next, we'll take a look at the southern hemisphere in Antarctica. This was the 13th lowest sea ice extent on record for January, and the 6th consecutive year with a below average sea ice extent in Antarctica. So what is the situation as far as carbon dioxide is in the atmosphere? Well, we've set a new record for January of 2021 with a concentration of 415.61 parts per million. That's an increase of 2.09 parts per million over the same time last year. But that's a 39% decrease compared with the increase we had at the same time last year. And if you look at the overall trend, it's been significantly upwards. However, the last few months, that trend has been a lot less. And so we could well be seeing the effect of the pandemic shutting down some industrial production. Let's cover what the status is of the El Nino-La Nina cycle. As I said before, we're in a strong La Nina, and you can see that from the models. At the moment, we're at a rate of -1 for the sea surface temperature anomaly, and -0.5 is generally considered to be a La Nina. What happens next? It looks as though we're going to edge back towards neutral conditions by the spring or summer of next year. But then the models sort of go crazy, and we're not sure whether we're going to stay in ENSO neutral conditions or plunge back into a La Nina. We'll have to see how the rest of the year goes. So let's summarize what we've learned so far. La Nina conditions are still present. They may last into the spring or even early summer. 2021 is starting off slowly with respect to temperatures, in a much similar way to 2018, which turned out to be the 6th warmest year on record. It was the 7th warmest January on record. That represents quite a large drop from the previous months, and that is probably due to the presence of the La Niñas, and also the global increase of carbon dioxide seems to be slowing. Sea ice is below average in both the northern and southern hemispheres. So stay safe, and until next time, goodbye.